Now that we're familiar with polynomials, we can go ahead and learn how to add and subtract polynomials. The first way that I'm going to show you is if we're going to add them vertically. So vertically, again, means that we're going to go up and down. So we're going to go down on this one. So because they're adding, all we need to do is take the second term, or the second trinomial, and we're going to just combine those. So the one thing to remember is make sure you're lining up like terms. So look at those degrees. So my first term here is x cubed. So in my second trinomial, I also have an x cubed. So I'm going to line those up the best I can with this lovely pen. That's a cubed. Now I also have an x squared, so I can line that up. Now this first one, we have terms that are matching, so it's easy to line it up. Not as easy for me to write my exponent, it's tiny. I do not have an x term, so I can leave that column blank. And I have a constant term. And just like when you were learning how to add to begin with, 1 plus 7 we're going to have is 8. We are having some trouble writing that so that you can see that. Let's see if maybe I make my pen a little bit thicker. I don't know, maybe I need to write just with my finger on the keyboard instead. Oh, that's a thick pen. It's going to be too thick for my exponent, so I better change that. So my constant terms I'm going to go ahead and combine. I don't have any x terms, so my positive x is going to stay as a positive x. Sorry, this was a positive 8. I have a positive x. I'm writing with my finger on the keyboard, and it's actually more legible than my expensive pen. My positive 4x squared is combined with a negative 2x squared, which is hard to read, but we can see it over here. And so 4 minus 2, I'm going to have a positive 2x squared. That squared's not a lot better, but a little bit better than the thick one. And then I have a negative x cubed and a positive 3x squared. Or I'm sorry, 3x cubed. So I'm going to end up with my first term being a negative 5, and that term is my x cubed. And there's my final answer. Now this next one, we're going to match up. My biggest one here is x to the 4th. My biggest one here, notice both of these, this polynomial, both of the polynomials are set as degree order. So 2x to the 4th, I don't have an x to the 4th there. I do have an x cubed, and it's a positive. So I'm going to go ahead and continue writing with my finger, I guess. Let's make that cubed a little bit better. Not much. So I use this one. My negative 3x squared, I can combine that with my negative 5x here, because x squared, because they're both x squared terms. My x, I have another x term plus 2x. And my constant term, I have a constant term in my other one as well. Whoops, I used my 2x. And I'm using my positive 1. And again, I can combine negative 7, positive 1, gives me a negative 6. Positive x, positive 2x, gives me a positive 3x. You can do these from left to right as well because you're not carrying, because you don't have like terms. So you could start way down here. You could do your 2x to the 4th first. It did not have another term that matched it in the second polynomial. You had a positive x cubed and an x cubed. So that's a positive 7x cubed. That helps keep your operational symbol or your integer correct. You can do it this way. And then a negative 5x squared and a negative 3x squared is going to give you a negative 8. Oh, I almost made it 8x squared. Excuse me, I'm still writing with my finger. All right, let's go ahead and go to how we're going to do it horizontally. Horizontally, around the horizon, we're going to go left to right. So they're going to give us a word problem on this one. I'm going to try my pen one more time. I'm not quite ready to give up on it. So, you're saving for a trip to Costa Rica. You deposit $500 into the bank account that earns interest compounded annually. 1 year later, you deposit an additional $600 into the account. Let R be the annual interest rate. What is the balance A of the account 2 years after the initial deposit? So we're going to say we're trying to find A. So I'm going to go ahead and write, try to write with my pen. A equals. Yep, I'm going back to my finger. A equals. Okay, now I know that the $500 is going to be $500. So I'm going to start my polynomial, and I can start it with a constant term. When I do an answer, I want to make sure it's in degree order, but I'm going to go ahead and start with a constant term. Now, it says that, let's see, find the balance in A after 2 years. So after 2 years, I'm going to have 1,000 times my rate. Now, then it says I'm going to keep doing that annual of 2 years. So now I'm going to do 500 times, I'm sorry, I said that 2 years, so 500. I'm going to keep doing my annual 500 times the rate, but I don't know how many years that's going to be. So let's see. Oops, I don't have all the information on this one. I did not copy all the information on this, so we will have to do this one in class. I'm sorry. I'm going to move on to subtracting polynomials. We'll do that. We'll do the story problem in class. Okay, so when we're subtracting, because there could be some changing of terms, or we're used to subtraction vertically, we're going to go ahead and set this up vertically. We're going to do it the same way we did the addition one. I'm going to look for the same types of terms. However, because of this negative here, because this is subtracting, remember we can think of subtracting as add the opposite. So I'm going to change the sign to the opposite sign on every one of these. Or I could distribute a -1 there. So now I can combine them, and combining them is the same as adding, but I'm going to keep their sign. So I'm going to look at my x squared terms. I have negative 2x squared, because I was subtracting, adding the opposite. Now I have a positive x, and I have a -8. So what to remember, the same as addition, we're going to put in columns our like terms. However, if it's a subtraction one, we're going to make sure that we're adding the opposite, so changing all the signs in the second polynomial. This one's a trinomial. Now we're doing the same thing we did for addition. 6 and a -2 gives me a +4, and that term is x squared. A +4 and a +1 gives me 5x. This was an implied 1 here, if you didn't catch that. Negative 7 and a negative 8 gives me a negative 15. And let's see. Now, if I was going to do that horizontally, it's the same thing. I'm going to add the opposite, so change all the signs here. This one I gave myself a little bit more room. Cross this out because Miss Holman hates when there's 2 signs there. And now I'm going to look at things as I did it horizontally before. My biggest degree is my x squared. I do have plain old x's. And this time instead of circling it, I'm going to go and say my third terms are going to be my constants. So I go to my first lines, I have an x squared and a negative 4x squared. When I combine them, I have a negative 3x squared. Again, I like to cross them out as I'm done with them. I have a positive 4x and I have a positive 5x. So that gives me a positive 9x. And I have a negative 9 and a negative 11. Combine those, I get negative 20. Don't forget your integer rules for combining. And I believe that might finish us off for 12.2. Yep. I will go back to the story problem and we'll study some of those rates in class.